Hi there. I have a beautiful session going on this evening, and it's been a while that I haven't done a live. I think our last live was last Friday. So here we are with a new live on retailing and customer experience. And this one is going to be a very interesting one as I'm meeting with Tom from YourStudio. And throughout, we're going to be talking about the importance of retailing and customer experience and how we create all of these human connections throughout our retail environments and so on. But without further ado, I'm going to invite in Tom to kick off with this conversation and try to benefit from our live time, and I should be joining in with Tom in a few seconds. Hi, Tom.
Hello, how's it
Love
going?
technology. I love technology.
I know, let's see how long it lasts.
It
Hopefully,
will, it will. I think we have like a good hour.
okay, good
Um,
times.
so hello everyone, and thanks for joining in. I see that Danny is joined.
Super
um,
fan.
Exactly. Tom, I didn't do an introduction. I normally try to squeeze in the time as much as possible during the live so that you get more time and more room to explain to us about this beautiful topic that we're going to discuss today. So I leave the room to you to introduce us
Yeah,
to Tom, who's Tom, and what is your studio, and to tell us why your studio started in the first place.
yeah, of course. So, hello everyone. Nice to see some friendly faces there. Greg, saw some 2020 come in there as well. Yeah, your studio started a number of years ago. Howard and myself. So I'm Tom Philipson, one of the founders. The other founder is Howard Sullivan. Um, and I'm CEO of the business. We've got studios in Melbourne, Amsterdam, and London. And I think that sort of question of why we started is actually quite a sort of topical now. We started at the beginning of the recession, which very much was this idea that you can. Everyone kept saying, "Oh, it's a great time to start a business. It's a great time to start a business." So Howard and I, we worked together at an interior design agency. And we're both sort of just obsessed with insight and trends and sort of future thinking and innovation. And that's what really sort of connected us. And, with everyone saying it's a great time to start a business, which I think actually they were all lying because I earned about £1,000 a month for about the first year. So it was a nightmare setting up a business in a recession. But, in the end, it was actually great because people were, excited about new ideas. But your studio was born very much with insight at the heart of it, with innovation at the heart of it, and that's what really connected Howard and me. And it's actually a little bit in the name as well, So at the beginning of the recession, everyone in the same way as now, there's a real change of clients reducing the size of their internal teams. Howard and I were super collaborative, and I thought it was almost a shift change in this idea of real, true collaboration. And I think, we wanted to become an extension of these internal teams that were really struggling. They wanted new ideas, they wanted, new insight. And, Howard and I became an extension of the team. We became your studio. We became this sort of innovation arm of internal teams. And, that methodology and that thinking, even as we've grown and opened other studios, that's very much stayed at the heart of what we do.
Yeah.
We're super open. I'd like to think super easy to work with agency. I would say that everyone's probably like thinks I'm a nightmare, but we're super easy to work with, and we do genuinely become an extension of a brand's offer. So
And
yeah,
by
that
the
was
time
the birth
the
of your studio.
recession started, Tom, sorry, I think I cut you.
That's all
Tom,
right.
sorry.
All good.
By the time the recession started, and when we saw its negative results in Europe,
Mm.
there was an important cut in everything related to spending, like marketing spend,
Mm.
advertising, and maybe a point of sale development. And this is when I believe that brands needed an injection of creativity and
Yeah.
needed to look at things differently. And do you believe by that time brands realized that their traditional methods had to change?
Yeah, absolutely. I think people were desperate to do new things, and I think actually the change had kind of come before that. So I think the change was before the recession, where the rise of online retail had really started to happen. It was about 15 years ago, and I think retailers who had really dominated on the high street and not really been so customer focused back in that, because they knew they could open a shop and sell some merchandise, whereas online retail kind of made them rethink that and think, okay, what's going to differentiate us? So I think all of a sudden that's when the sort of focus of, okay, how do we connect with our consumers? How do we keep our market share? How do we do things a bit differently and make sure that we're moving at the pace of the consumer? And I think it's taken 15 years for retailers really to value this sort of fast-paced change that people are having to work towards now.
Right. And then the customer, we suddenly realized that the customer comes at the heart of our retail operations and our
Yeah.
retail strategy. And the discourse of most of the fashion brands becomes like related to this idea of how do I connect and how do I
Mm.
engage with my customers. So what about customer experience?
Well, I think that's the kind of been the most exciting thing for us. When we set the business up, we were an experience design agency. That's what we were constantly trying to work out. What on earth do we actually do? Me and Howard we're part innovation, part insight. Obsessing, getting in the mindset of the consumer. And I think we're now in a time where experience design. People have talked about experience, and this sort of Howard has been trying to coin the experience boom that we're about to go into. And I think people have really valued. I actually think this is down to online retailers as well. They're coming into the market of wanting to connect with their consumers in real life, because they realize it's all about building trust. And
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of consumer experience, and the importance of consumer experience is something you can differentiate your brand. It's something that's unique to you, but also it's some way of almost being human and being showing your sort of human values through an experience. So yeah, I think it's it's a really exciting time to be in consumer experience design and designing consumer journeys. So yeah, it's really exciting.
And Tom, with experience being such a global concept and sometimes difficult for brands or brand managers to understand how it's going to be turned into a physical concept.
Mm.
I mean, this surely made your life very difficult at the agency, but did it help you come through a certain process to translate a concept of experience, which might be very volatile, into a beautiful physical
Mm.
concept, retail concept?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's always trying to think, I think when experience boom sort of first started, I'm coining it the experience boom now, but when experience first started and people start to try to do these pop-ups and try to do these quite exciting, short-term retail, people were just going a bit crazy with it, and it wasn't aligned to their values and it wasn't aligned to their purpose. So some of the experiences were just a bit random, and just kind of someone said, "Oh, you've got to do a VR experience." So we're like, "Okay, we need to do a VR experience. What does that even mean?" But I think there's been some real, brands have really evolved, and there's been some real intelligence around, what does experience mean for different brands. So I think now people are creating experiences that are amplifying their values. Selfridges are masters of that. their purpose and their values is the core of the experiences they create, and it's threaded through all of their communications. It's threaded through every single physical touch point and digital touch point, really cohesive. So I think it's been, I think at the beginning it was just people were saying, we want an experience, but we're not 100% sure what that is. Now I think brands are much more, have intelligence with that and wants, are much more strategic with that. Which is good for us because, that's what we prefer, where we kind of stopped using the term pop-up, and we've been talking about this idea of a live lab. So if the problem with the pop-up is it kind of feels like a waste of money because you're just popping up and disappearing, and where's the value in it? How do you sort of link back to that real value? And I think the way we're looking at it is much more of a live lab. So this idea that it's a place to capture data, it's a place to test product, it's a place to really shape product as well. So it's not just to connect to the consumer, it's to test new ideas, test new products out. So I think it's actually been, although it was difficult at the beginning, now I think it's amazing because people kind of know what we're talking about, and there's some amazing people working within brands who are super intuitive and intelligent the way they sort of approach experience.
That's perfect. I mean, the way you put it is really important because, as you said, at first we all jumped on the idea of like creating an experience, whereas brands had less visibility and they were less clear on what objectives they want to achieve from their stores. And this customer experience or retail experience is tightly connected with ephemeral stores or pop-up stores. And maybe 10 years ago, it was something alien or new, or exclusive brands could manage to develop their own pop-up stores, as it might have costed a lot. But today, pop-up stores or ephemeral stores are becoming an integral part of brand strategies. So how do you believe that today brands could deliver value through their ephemeral retail stores?
I think it's, you're absolutely right. I think it's becoming an integral part, and I think I think because it's been a broad brush tool, so people say, well, we've got to do a pop-up, but what's the purpose of it? And how does it kind of fit into that retail ecosystem? So, I think that the intelligence around that has been really important to just define actually what is it for? Because if you want to design a pop-up that is, an ephemeral experience that is the KPIs or, the success of it is all based around selling product, but then you're asking customers to come in and experience something and the staff aren't set up to sell product, then it's a real mixed message. So I think it's, having a real clear purpose of why is, what tool is it? So is it to create brand awareness? Is it to test product with the consumer? Is it to, capture data? Or is it to go and test a new market, test a new high street, test a new shopping center? So using it as a real tool, it's a spanner in a retail toolkit, to really help test new areas, test new consumer products and capture data. And I think also as well, for online retailers as well, it's a chance to get in front of their consumer. So it's a chance to actually be able to have face-to-face conversations with a consumer, with the chat room warriors, people on, saying that they do or don't like product. It's so amazing to be able to actually have a face-to-face conversation with people, and really get to gauge their emotion and, capture their emotion of playing with the product, to help feed that back into the mothership. So I think it's, being much more intelligent about it being a tool to improve the business, improve the experience, improve the connection to the brand. So yeah, I think that's the kind of thing that's changed.
And you believe that brands are less stressed on just presenting projects that will yield like instant sales, because most of the brands do
Yeah.
propose like, formats, and they want to. I think it's a natural
I know it
reaction,
is,
right?
and we've done so many projects where the first thing is, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to do something that's really immersive. We're not bothered about selling anything. Really immersive, and we want to capture some data on the age of people coming to experience this, and what they actually like about the experience. And then in the 11th hour, the last minute, you'll get an FD, a financial director of the company, saying, but what's the KPI on the sales of this
Right.
experience? And then everyone just panics. And we're like, okay, how do we make this about selling stuff? And then they're the ones that don't work very well, because you haven't set out to make it all about
Yeah.
selling. If you
Yeah.
set out at the beginning to make it all about selling a product, then you can completely change the type of experience you want to create.
Right.
So I think it's being clear on the purpose of it is, absolutely paramount. And just a point really, I'm really happy we've moved beyond just the Instagrammable moment, which, that was a bit of a language that was going around for, we just want an Instagrammable moment, which, I think Instagram, the social element of it is really, important. And, that we talk about in the studio, this idea of being experienced by few, but shared by many. This idea of really being experienced by a small amount of people, but really shared. Whether it's a live experience or whatever. But that sort of more just singular, Instagrammable moment is kind of less important now. It's more important to be coming live from the store, or live from the experience, or live from the lab, or something like that. I think that's a really exciting evolution of this as well.
Right. Like we're going back to the idea of just being there and
Yeah,
experiencing it for yourself.
exactly.
Uh, so coming and collecting all of these ideas that we've discussed, we're looking at some major important elements related to the retail customer experience. I mean, when we want to create a customer experience, what are the key concepts or elements that should be there to make the best out of our project?
I mean, like, to put it really simply, which it's really important. We look at the customer experience, pre, during, and post experience. So I'm sure most agencies and brands, look at that journey like that. But the important thing for the pre-experience, we're always thinking about the consumer with a mobile in their hand. So it's when we're designing that journey, it's never just a person; it's a person with mobile. We'll never. I think that, again, that's another thing that's really changed. We don't really differentiate between the online and offline experience, just purely because we were born in a time of, the beginning of the recession, where that's naturally how Howard and I thought, and that's kind of naturally how we think as a business. So I think we'll always start about the person with their phone, and then as they walk, through, designing the experience, we'll look at those little moments to trigger, whether that's trigger to explore a product, to trigger a brand moment, to trigger, a very human moment with
The brand
whether,
rep,
yeah, with the brand rep or the associate. And then, to follow up, the post, we'll always be thinking, why we're going to make them come back. How do we get them to come back into store? Is that something with, whether it's as they leave, give them something, exciting to I didn't realize questions pop up there.
yeah.
That's quite trippy. So you got my flow there.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. But it's, so this idea of getting them back into store.
Yeah.
So that's how we kind of look at the consumer experience, just at top level, and then we'll break it down into different mindsets. So, what are the mindsets we're trying to create for? And then we'll, is it a mum who's, time poor with a pram, who's trying to navigate a store? What are those moments that's going to make, her life better? trying to think, okay, what's the different mindsets and what's the different layers to the store experience that we're creating for them. So that's really important part of the process. And then once we've created that experience, we're, oh, it's okay, don't worry, you didn't give me. Once we've created that, overarching sort of mindset and those different moments within it, we'll then look at data to really sort of tweak and change the, whether that's we did a project for Birchbox a few years ago, which was they wanted to test what bricks and mortar meant to them in London. So we created a pop-up on Carnaby Street, and we created the experience and with the mindsets and the different experiences that we wanted to create there to come live from the site. But then we looked at different language that we used to explain the product. So sometimes it was the top 50 products or the top products brought to you by us, little things like nuances in language to see what really sort of got the consumer excited and got them, whether that's making that purchase or just picking the product up or, going to become a member online. So that, put very, very simply, that's kind of how we look at a consumer experience.
Right. And I think we answered the question that popped out about the essence of customer experience. I hope that we answered this for you. I'm going to just let it pop up again. What would be considered as the essence of customer experience creation? I believe that we went through that.
Yeah, I think that, the essence, we're always thinking about mindsets and, how do you kind of connect into that person and make sure that it's, a seamless experience for them. But I think in today's world, we now have the advancement of data and insight to really start to tweak and adjust the experience just so it's, it becomes more technical, and it changes with time as well. So if you think about, the Nike Live Store, Nike's one of our clients in the US. In the Nike Live Store, they look at what's being sold in the area, what's being sold in the local area to the LA store, and that changes the product mix, and that changes what type of product they store in store. So I think that's the beauty of having that data. It's pointless having loads of data if you're not going to do anything with it. So your consumers saying, we're giving you all of this data, make our lives better. So that's kind of what we're trying to do with it. Okay, make sure we use it in a positive way.
And so we're at this point when we're thinking about customer experience, it's like mixing hard and soft kinds of information and giving birth to this beautiful, physical store, and then moving customers around between online and offline. However, I was curious, now that you've described the example of the Birchbox, for example, does the language, like the physical language that the customer sees and touches in front of him is different than the online language that he might experience through his visit to the website? I don't know if I...
Yeah, that's a really good point. We did a talk recently on future formats where we were exploring different ways that, what the future might be with, different retail formats. And we had two examples in there. One was Walmart. So Walmart have done an amazing. They created a retail lab. So they created a retail lab in the US, which basically is a physical representation of their online store. So it's the same language. It's the same sort of setup with product mix and things like that. Which has been really successful. So they've been testing things in this live store, and then that goes out to the full estate, to the Walmart estate, and they change their retail experience. But then we've got, on the other hand, we've got a store that we designed called Sourced Market, which was, again, you talked about the softer side of things. So I'm looking at the Walmart side of things, which is the more data-driven, insight-driven, really technical. I think they reduced their store associate time to create online shops. So the store associate puts the online shop together, by changing the language and the layout of the store, they were able to reduce the time it took to fill a basket by 20% or something like that. So, if you
Wow.
think about the Walmart scale, that's huge.
Yeah.
But then you've got the softer side of things. So you've got this idea of the sourced market, which is all about this. It's all about provenance. It's all about really interesting stories about the people who make the product. It's all about this much more human connection of it's a brand you love and you want to connect with. So I think we talk about those two are almost like the perfect hybrid. So if you could get the softness of source market and the sort of provenance of product, add that with the intelligence of Walmart and the live lab element of it, that for us is that's the perfect retail perfect retail experience.
Right. I mean, it's really interesting just coming to think about it and how complicated it might seem to analyze
Mm,
and make the project happen. And sometimes these things could be taken from granted from an external point of view.
mm.
And from your experience, having worked with so many brands, do you believe that every brand is capable today of delivering a customer experience? Is every brand ready to be mature enough to deliver a customer experience, a positive customer experience?
I think everyone should be. I think it's essential now to be delivering a a good customer experience. We run an agency, and essentially we offer a customer experience that needs to be on point. People want a service; they want to feel like they're getting looked after. If you make whatever, whether it's you make I don't know, buttons or whatever, you're selling to someone and, people are connecting you. So it's really important to have a really concise and good customer experience. So I think in a modern world, it's so essential, especially to humanize businesses and humanize brands as well. I think that's, people buy people is a sort of old saying, and I think that's never been more important, especially as we're all sat in our houses and we're all sat away from each other. And I think this idea, we're all craving this sort of human contact, and I think we're going to relish our human contact even more than we have done before in the sort of future world. So yeah, I think every brand, whether they are ready, I don't know, but I think every brand should be their focus.
Mm, mm.
From agencies to brands to people who make products, services essential.
Right. And do you believe that today, actually, the pandemic also gave us new opportunities or new ways
Mm,
to rethink our stores? We saw that many brands started doing like online pop-up stores, and through those, they started live streaming and creating opportunities to directly talk to their customers. So
mm,
brands never cease to develop like creative ways to connect with their customers and maybe try to get some sales done during that difficult period.
mm,
So now there are many tools, like digital tools, that
mm.
help in that creation of the customer experience. Do you believe that and essentially, every customer experience has to be also has to include digital
Yeah.
tools?
Yeah, I mean, digital is, as I said, we kind of see it as one journey now, with the person and the phone in the middle. But I think it's, that's been another amazing thing that, well, a positive thing that has come out of COVID is this sort of experimentation with digital. And I think you
Yeah,
can really see it in how some of the big fashion houses have really embraced virtual fashion. They've really embraced this idea of this virtual world and digital twin. And if you look at Animal Crossing and the amazing things sort of Gucci and all these sort of fashion houses have been doing on these gaming platforms, I think that's been a really interesting innovation. I think the virtual fashion boom, I think that's going to be an interesting thing as well. I think I'm too old to really fully understand it. I did a talk at a school local to me about the creative industry, trying to inspire the people to get into the creative industry. And there was a virtual dress that I showed them that it was sold for £7,000. And young people today, they get that. Everyone there understood it. I'm still
Yeah,
trying to get my head around it. So I
me
think,
too.
I think I think it's really exciting. I love that creative expression that's being delivered online and through digital. Talk at Musgrove, and that was it.
Thank
um,
you, Sari.
yeah. So I think that's really think I love I think it'll actually affect physical retail as well. I think the creative expression that's being delivered online, and the creative expression through fashion, through art, through the architecture that's being built digitally, I think it's actually going to influence the real world as well. So I think that's really really exciting. Oh, I'm pleased. Sorry
You
you were
was
there.
there.
Yeah.
Thank you for these comments. Um, like looking back at this idea as well, the introduction of new retail formats helped give some dynamic to the high street and to brands. However, there are lots of brands who needed to reinvent their traditional flagship stores or main stores on the high streets to also entice customers to come to the store and not do their shopping just like online.
Mm.
I know that you have a perfect example for that, like for the Topshop
Yeah,
case that you have worked on.
yeah.
So
I
can you
mean that
elaborate?
all of our projects are that's I think the one thing that has changed, because a lot of these legacy retailers that have they've really struggled online. I think they've gone on top of things now. So whereas the KPIs or the targets that were being set for stores was very much you've got to sell product in that store. Whereas
Mm,
now I think the mental shift for brands has been, okay, every sale, whether it's online or in store, is a sale. So it's actually targets have kind of changed,
mm, mm.
which then it sort of changed the dynamic of the store experience, because people aren't as worried about making that sale in store
Yes.
because you can make the sale online. So if you look at our razor store that we designed, for instance, that's majority of the people who go to razor, they love they'll probably buy a lot of their products online, but the store we've created for them is their mecca. They love razor. That's why they go to the store. They love that brand. It's part of them. It's part of their fabric. It's like their clubhouse.
Yeah.
So I think that's the exciting thing that's changed. So I think to touch on your point with the Topshop one, the Topshop project that we created was a bit of a game changer for us, because it really challenged how people activated a store, and really challenged what people did within the four walls of their store. So I think that this idea of experimentation in store, this idea of creating these connected experiences that are not just about selling product, it's about longevity of having this consumer. So I think that's Razor is a great project. I absolutely love it because it is all about community. It's all about coming live from there.
Yes.
It's about meeting your heroes as well, because famous esports gamers go there. And then Topshop was a game changer just because we did something really experimental and different, and it got so much press and it got so much awareness that people were like, okay, let's try and do some different things. It went really well for Topshop. They had hugely increased sales and footfall in their store, so people could see the value in doing that. So yeah, I think they're sort of two projects.
And this, of course, goes in this line of thought that brands moved from the multi-channel concept to a
Mm,
omni-channel management
mm.
system, allowing this to happen. And I'm sorry I couldn't share the videos with you. We were
That's all
talking
right.
with Tom off the air, but we'd invite, of course, everyone to go on your website, and they could look at the portfolio of all of
Yeah.
these beautiful projects.
definitely.
And hi, Sylvie from Canada. Thank you for joining in. Tom, so how can brands differentiate themselves through these customer experiences and human experiences that they are now putting forward? Like,
Mm.
is there like a differentiating tool based on customer experience rather than, of course, products or services
Yeah.
that we used to talk about a decade ago?
Yeah, I think it's, very much about, it sort of touched on Selfridges, and I think your purpose and values as a business, being, creating experiences that accentuate your values, that really sort of drive home what your purpose is as a business. I think I think that is what experiences can do. They can really change the dial on what people, when people think of you as a brand, experiences are so memorable. You can really shape them to change the perception of your brand and change the perception of your business. So I think they're a really powerful tool to really think about experience. Sorry, I'm just going to charge I've just put my phone on charge. I've just realized I'm
No
just
problem.
about to run out of battery. Sorry, 1 second.
No worries. No worries.
But
Take your
yeah, I think
time.
it's, that's really important, to, if you stay true to your values and stay true to your purpose as a business, then you'll create experiences that are, really unique to you and really connect into your consumer base and the people you're trying to, trying to connect in with. So I think that's, that's super important.
And Tom, with experiences and delivering these experiences, I think it goes hand in hand with telling a story, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh, so can you comment on that? I think that because you're putting always the storytelling
Yeah.
at first with your line of work.
Yeah, I mean, storytelling, is a key element to the experiences that you create. How are you sort of ebbing and flowing with the story you tell? How are you making sure that, again, it's trying to ensure that you're being human with your storytelling, and I think that differentiates you from other brands as well. So I think storytelling is a core element. We just literally did a talk on storytelling. We do a breakfast series talk, and our talk was all around product storytelling and just the power of it. Really, you can add value to a product by the story you tell that surrounds it. You can almost have, any bottle of Coke, but then you tell a story about the journey that this Coke was made, and the journey that the story around the material that this bottle of Coke is made out of. You add value to it, and it really sort of shapes the narrative around your brand and the products that support your brand. So, yeah.
Perfect. And I think we have someone here really interested in storytelling, and we were talking a little bit about that
All
in the
right, great.
previous live. It's really important to look at all of these elements because now we have built like a holistic view related to our product strategy,
Mm,
having clear objectives, and then saying that to deliver those beautiful customer experiences, we have to be very defined since the beginning of our project, and to have like the results that we hope as a brand to achieve. And now we've talked about many of these steps related to experiences, Tom, but are there like tools that you absolutely have every time you want to work with a brand to create and deliver that experience? I mean, are there today like toolkits or like things that absolutely have to be there when creating types of projects that deliver these types of experiences, either physically or through ephemeral stores?
Yeah, I think how one of our values is as a business is always to move at the pace of culture. So making sure that you are moving at the pace of change. And I think the high street is littered with brands that haven't moved at the pace of change. And I think building that pace of change into the consumer experiences that you create is is essential for longevity and longevity and success. So making sure that you're always in touch with, insights, how your consumer's moving, how your consumer's changing, evolving, what are the new emerging mindsets that are emerging, and things. The thing is, if you take your eye off it for a second, things can change. I mean, we've all seen in the last 12 months how much consumer experience has evolved and changed. So I think by ensuring that you're always changing at the pace of culture and keeping up with that, with culture, is, you will always be successful. And I think also, being innovative and always experimental. So not just thinking, okay, we've got this consumer experience, or that's perfect. This one's perfect. Let's just do this one. I think if you're not always experimenting and being innovative and changing and adapting and trying new things, you're missing opportunities to connect with either your consumer base or with other consumers as well. So I think the easy answer that people always say, oh, be brave with what you do, but I think it's a bit more technical than that. I think it's understanding where the market's going, read the change in the market, and then experiment, be innovative when you see those opportunities that align with your values and align with your purpose. So I think that's probably how I would summarize that.
Yeah. I mean, this is the new state of mind of how we should be doing business today.
Exactly.
I think it's most probably putting it that way. So if we look at these discussions, we see that brands have to pay more attention to how they want to share their values, how they want to connect with customers, and how they want to tell their stories to add value to their offering. So do you believe that brands should connect with their customers today emotionally, for and foremost? And how can they do that? How can they keep that emotional connection and translate it later on into sales that will keep the business moving?
Well, I think the way to look at it is consumers connect with brands emotionally because that is what, brands are what shape them. When people wearing a branded top, that's kind of shaping their personality. So whether a brand wants to connect emotionally or not, that's just what happens. You have an Apple computer because that's part of you're an Apple person versus a Microsoft person, or you have a Google phone versus another phone. So brands are emotional. It's natural that you have a connection with them. So I think for me, it's like, how do you shape that emotion and how do you sort of kind of channel that emotion? And I think by being, setting a promise and living up to that promise, setting up a experience that is true to your purpose and true to what you're all about, will naturally create positive emotions and positive, connections. And I think, we're in a world where if you're not connecting in the right way, you will very much be told by your consumer base that you're not connecting in the right way. I know there was an experience with Glossier where they were talking about being this idea of they were sort of, their consumer base was all about sustainability, and their packaging was really plastic, so their consumers called them out online, so they had to really change and evolve. So I think we're in a world where you will be told if you're doing something wrong very quickly by your consumer, and it's how you respond to that and make sure you change. So I think,
and being ready to listen to customers and react, which is something which is key to success in today's world.
Definitely.
I don't know if you're managing to see the comments. So the emotional connection will empower consumers. With this mindset, you'll make a fortune in France. Like, please come to France and change.
I'm not allowed. You're not allowed. It's Brexit now. We're not allowed over there. I thought the French closed the tunnel.
I, I mean,
I can't
I
wait. Do you know
hope
what it is?
not.
I can't wait to travel again and go and go to places
We
like
too.
France. Yes,
We too.
yes,
I
to
mean,
imagine.
it's really important to sometimes when we're doing these lives, we connect with people from all around the globe. I mean, it seems sometimes very trivial, but come to think about it, we are able to connect, but
Mm.
we're distant. And I hope that we're going to be able to to travel soon because it's frustrating, I think.
No,
Uh,
do you know? I think it's as a this sort of us doing this would wouldn't necessarily be as, but because of COVID, and I really hope that coming out of COVID that these sort of digital connections and this idea that we're connecting around the world and that we can go and travel still, but this sort of this global community that's connected digitally, I love it. I feel almost more connected to some of my clients and friends who are in other countries more now than I did before because it's just habit to connect digitally. So I think there's going to be it's going to be interesting. I think what habits we've been hypothesizing in the studio, what habits are going to be carried on, post COVID. You can see some of the trends in the US where digital shopping in the US, supermarket online shopping was up here, and then it's like really, right back down, even lower than it was before COVID. So it'd be interesting to see what happens, whether people do get back out and start shopping and filling the shops, and then just whether online completely drops off or whether it's this bit more blended of online offline. So I think it's going to be really interesting post COVID.
right, right. You're right. Um, I was keen, I mean, since the beginning to ask you this question. We always calculate our projects success based on the ROIs, but with customer experience, we're talking more about like the return on experience.
Mm.
Have you been through this type of talk with your clients? Have your clients been asking about the return on experience related to the projects that they have developed?
Yeah, yeah. I always, there's always a, ROI attached to it, and I think, the simple one is selling product, which we kind of
Mm,
touched on earlier. But I think in the same way, I actually think it's more looking at it like a marketing campaign now, or an advertising campaign. So if you
mm,
put the
mm.
advertising and marketing methodology to an experience, then you look at it completely different because it's how much coverage you're getting on social media, it's how much awareness to the brand you're getting, whether it's magazines capturing the experience, the actual value as well, how important it is to have face-to-face value versus, online value. So I
Yeah.
think there are lots of different things. So some of the, things that measure our experience are, footfall, media impressions, sometimes sales, sometimes it's data capture as well, the type of data that they want to capture as well. So that all of that working together, it has to be the ROI really. And I think, just having one sole thing, if you just make it about the sales, it's not going to be enough versus the investment. It has to be about the marketing value. It has to be about the brand connection value and the brand awareness value. So
Mm,
I think there's actually, and I think that's changing as well, as we become better at measuring and, capturing data of these types of experience, then we're going to have better insight and data to be able to prove the ROI as well. So I think that's, yeah, it's a journey we're all on.
perfect. Of course, in this discussion, I'd always come back to the subject that is dear to my heart. If we're consolidating now all of the elements that we've discussed, and in a few words, can you think or say that ephemeral stores will remain from now on an integral part of every brand strategy, and that they will be there to provide brands with a certain dynamic or respond to a certain need. And it will be there like maybe you said it earlier that it might be a replacement for other forms of marketing or advertising which
Yeah.
were traditionally used.
Yeah, I think it is now. It's a really important tool that's here to stay. So I think if you're a modern brand that is wanting to keep up with their consumer, you have to have short-term experimental ephemeral experiences that do try. You don't have the pressure of creating a flagship store. You want to test ideas. So I think the most innovative brands in the world are going to be the ones that experiment the most with experimental pop-ups, but use them not just to create the Instagrammable moment that their financial director probably thinks they're for. It's actually it's data capture, it's testing product, it's getting in front of people. It's such a robust tool, and when you look at it like that, then it's actually you think, well, why on earth aren't we doing more of them? Why on earth aren't we using them much more effectively? So that's why I think they're here to stay. Also, I think the big change has been that the property market has changed. So retail property are doing short-term leases now, and even malls are doing short-term leases. Whereas if you look before, that wasn't a thing. People weren't really doing that. So I think that is something that's changed in the market as well, where it's actually an important tool for property developers to get people to test new markets, to get people to come in, to keep malls fresh, to keep high streets fresh. So I think I believe it's here to stay until something new comes along. That inevitably will, because that's the beauty of retail. It's evolving, changing. It's been around for however many hundreds of years. So it's like it just evolves and changes and adapts. So yeah, I'm excited while we're in this period of it being a really important tool, and no doubt us as a business, YourStudio, will evolve as it changes to the next thing as well. So.
And I was I depicted so many times throughout the conversation that you said that brands should be testing, should be experimenting through these types of formats. With experimentation and testing, we might be doing things right and we might not. Have customers become more forgiving? I mean, when a brand tests something that we don't like as customers, are we being more lenient in our reactions toward a brand's failure? Or since it's a temporary format, are we forgetting it more easily and just...
I think so. I think we're all seeing into each other's houses now. Everyone's had a cat jump on their laptop or a baby go bonkers in the background of a Zoom meeting. This idea of we have a saying in the studio. It's about connection, not perfection, and this idea of the pressure that's been, this idea of making something perfect is kind of gone. It's all about how do you create that connection and work towards creating that connection and not worry about it being absolutely perfect every time, because if you expect it to be perfect every time, you're not going to be able to innovate. You're not going to be able to test new ideas that might sort of fail. So I do believe that the consumers are excited when people are testing stuff, as long as you tell them this is us experimenting, this is a beta site, that we're trying out new stuff, we want you on the journey with us. Then I think that's fine. If you rock up and say that this needs to be perfect, then they're going to expect it to be perfect. But I think it's a bit more of a two-way dialogue and a bit more transparent with consumers.
Yeah, it's like staying conversational all the way with customers.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Tom, I think I got to ask you everything I wanted to ask
Ah,
you.
good.
However, I don't know if there is anything else that I didn't and that you wish to include before we conclude our live.
No, I think it's no, it's been really interesting conversation. I think it's fascinating what you're doing in your exploration and the people you're sort of talking to, and I think it's really exciting. I look forward to keeping updates on your exploration as well and the people you speak to.
Thank you so much, Tom. Thank you for giving me the opportunity and meeting me on this live chat. And I'll invite everyone on your behalf to visit the website for more info about your studio.
Awesome.
And I will be sharing, for those who joined in a little bit late, I will be joining this directly on IGTV and later on YouTube, and we'll be sharing and resharing the links. And thank you so much for being with us. Thank you so much, Tom. Thank you, Danny, for making this happen and
Yeah.
following up. And hope to meet physically soon.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you everyone for joining. Take
Thank you,
care.
Tom.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. See you. Bye bye.